Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying with the conference through the end. And I also want to thank the organizers for having me. In the spirit of some of the questions that have been coming over the last few hours, I wanted to give you a bit of my background in case you want to pull me aside and ask me questions. So I was excited to see another MD PhD out there who's not practicing medicine. That is my background. I did computational mechanics for my research. I chose not to practice medicine. Instead, I became an entrepreneur and started a company. If you want to hear about that, you can buy me a glass of wine. Then I went to faculty. I was a faculty member for 5 years. If you want to hear about that, you need to buy me scotch. And then Medtronic was wonderful, so I will buy you a drink if you want to talk about that. And then now I'm the CTO for healthcare at Ansys. And I've been in this role for a year. So this is my new team at Ansys. We have this research group in Lyon. The group is led by Michelle, who's the boots on the ground leader. And this is PhDs with lots of different biomechanics backgrounds, working on different organ systems in the body. They do not code the software. They do proof of concept projects with customers and academic partners, applying the technology from across Ansys to demonstrate how it can be used in healthcare. So the philosophy that we're operating under now is that this idea that the human body is intrinsically multi-physics, it's multi-scale, and we need a hybrid technology environment in order to accelerate the creation of value in healthcare using these tools. So on the left, that hierarchy that you're probably familiar with, the body has lots of length scales. We can't test them all at the same time. It's very challenging to model them all at the same time. The ability to gather data or to measure things is very limited as you get into a live system. So how do we tackle all of these problems? So the approach that we're taking, as Alfonso mentioned in his talk, is that we're viewing the human body using model-based systems engineering principles that have come from other industry sectors that allow us to assemble heterogeneous models, drill deep where you need high resolution, and have low resolution, lighter weight models where you don't need as much information or it doesn't contribute as much to the question of interest that you have. So on the right, you can see that this is a multi-scale approach. So we've been augmenting the more than 39 solvers that we have at Ansys with zero-D physiological modeling tools. We are linking those to our ability to do organ-level modeling that is driven by imaging, and then connecting that to cellular-level modeling, including one of the talks you heard earlier with quantitative systems pharmacology. So what are the barriers for the application of technology in healthcare? And here I'm looking at both industry and medicine across the kind of healthcare ecosystem. So one of the challenges is that we need to address this question of whether the technology fits in seamlessly into the workflow, either clinically or in industry. The second one is who operates or applies that technology in routine practice. And to give you a taste of this, one automotive company probably has more engineers in it or more modelers in it than the sum of all of the top 5 medical device companies put together. So this question of how we make our models that we're developing here, that you guys have been discussing over the last 2 days, really incredible stuff. And I wish I could hire all of you. We need to figure out how to get non-modelers to be able to use the things that we're doing in their routine practice to create value in their companies or to create value at the bedside. The next question is, what's the incremental benefit of the technology to the patient? So is introducing the cost and the complexity of the technology actually going to improve the care of the patient? And then on the right, can you actually quantify that? And this is probably the hardest question because that quantification drives a lot of business decisions. We heard from GSK today. They have to prove that QSP is actually going to move the needle for them economically and makes good business sense for them to invest in it. For Medtronic, they have to prove that doing a multi-physics heart model is going to actually improve the time to market, the revenue generation capability of their products, if they adopt this technology into their workflows. So this is very important. We're going to need to be able to actually prove to the payers. In the UK, this is the government that pays for healthcare. In the US, this is the different insurance companies. We have a very complex system. But we need to be able to prove to them that introducing this is going to actually create benefit. So what's the problem to be solved? And one of the things that we've been hearing about today is this idea that you need to kind of right-size your model to the question that you're asking. So we want to be able to provide a framework that kind of helps us span the spectrum from applying our techniques to idealize models for the classes of problems where that's appropriate, and working our way across to virtual patients, patient-specific models, and digital twins. When I think about digital twins, my definition, well, I heard this quotation once that digital twins are like love. Everyone knows what it is. No one trusts anybody else's definition. My definition for the digital twin is actually that the temporal component of what you're feeding back into the model is actually critical for you to create value from that model. So for me, the digital twin needs to be updated with data, and that data needs to be creating value for you. So I want to, like we said, we stand on the shoulders of giants. These are all these different groups that have been working on these different classes of models, and it's really exciting the progress that's being made. So in creating this ecosystem, we want to tackle some fundamental challenges. So we want to have a foundation of existing solvers. So don't reinvent the wheel. If the technology is mature, you don't need to do anything with it. Have modular frameworks, so the things that are going to be value add, you can add in. The things that are adapting rapidly or progressing rapidly, you want to be able to swap the old ones out, put the new ones in a very rapid way. We want to have an open platform for collaboration. Want to be able to publish those algorithms in the code. The way that we've gone after this is enabling Python customization around our proprietary solvers, and allowing the end user to be able to abstract the function, abstract the user interface, abstract the extraction of data to suit their needs. And we want to enable automation and scale up of these workflows so that non-expert users can apply them to their disciplines. So this is what this platform looks like. As Alfonso mentioned, it's built on the LS-DYNA solver, which you can get with academic licenses, or if you have a lot of money, you can pay a commercial license. This is the collection of Python scripts that kind of take you through the process of building an appropriate sized cardiac model. So the shallow end of the pool is something that I'm showing here with data that was generated from Synopsys. So this is a multi-phase CT scan where the imaging is driving the boundary of the chambers so that you can use that to do a CFD analysis. And some people are using this to be able to get a quick look at virtually implanting valves and looking at how the patient-specific flow dynamics might affect the function of that valve. So the deeper end of the pool is building this strongly coupled multi-chamber cardiac model. And again, this recruits a lot more of these blocks. And these blocks are open source, they're Python, you can get access to the code, you can modify the code, you can replace any block with something that you can do better. So we're very anxious to have you participate in that. What we've done so far, or what the team has done so far, is they've been able to work with the data sets that some of you have already published. So there's 44 that are listed at the bottom of that slide, where they've been able to demonstrate that this process works. And if you would like more information or would like to get access to that entire library, that workflow, the Ansys Heart system, then these are my two colleagues that you can get in touch with. So what now? So now we still need to tackle this problem of scale, automation, how to trace what you used, what files were generated, what data was generated. How do you manage your data? How do you control access so not anyone can change the software you're using without your knowledge? So this is something that's very important on the industrial side. And I don't know if the folks in this audience deal much with CAD vaults or product lifecycle management systems, but on the industrial side, these systems are critical for making sure that whatever you're trying to bring to the market, there's a single source of truth that everyone who's working on this project can refer to. So within this framework, we have a knowledge management system, which is able to handle experimental data. I've listed bench testing and preclinical testing there, and it's able to handle your simulation processes. And what's critical for this is that the simulation processes don't have to be Ansys tools. It can be something that you've created yourself, something that the industry has created, or a commercial product. But anything that's callable from a command line can be linked into a process like this. The system stores your papers, your algorithms, your protocols, your boundary conditions in the knowledge network that will drive your process. And then all of the artifacts that get created along your process are also stored with version control of everything that was run. And then the data can be stored in a data warehouse as a structured data set that then you can apply your analytical methods on. The other thing that's on this slide is that the compute environment can be heterogeneous. So you can have local workstations, you can have cloud, you can have local HPC, you can have laptops. As long as you know what to run and where to run it, you can configure the system. So what are we doing with it? We're making it so that our customers, once they've created this process, they can have a method for automating it. And automating it so that the person to the left of the modeler, like a designer, or the person to the right of the modeler, like the clinical support person that would stand in the operating room with the surgeon, would be able to run this as part of their planning process. So this is a process abstracted from that more complex system that creates this multi-physics heart. And you can customize the output to fit the end user. So this particular customer wanted the volume and the flow data versus time that matches the type of clinical data that they were collecting in their experiments. This is another system that Alfonso mentioned during his talk, where we're capturing the clinical process for aortic valve replacement. So the first step after the geometry of that patient is brought into the software, or the software is pointed to it, is to run a simulation for the placement of the guide wire. Then the user then selects the Z location on the guide wire, presses enter, and another simulation is run that deploys the stent in that location. And then once that simulation is run, the leaflets are placed, and then the valve dynamics are run. And as Dave mentioned in his talk yesterday, patients don't live sedated on the operating table. So we then bring in our physiological model, appropriately downsized to this particular application, and then drive that so that you can see what happens when the patient sits up, stands up, runs, and you can see whether there's any paravalvular leakage. So in conclusion, that's my contact information. With this ecosystem that we've built, this PyAnsys ecosystem, we have tried to make it so that you can customize the interface with any tool in our portfolio. You customize the UI, you customize your path through this tool, you customize the post-processing. We're already working with startups. Like I said, we don't want to own that. So whatever's created on the platform, we want to enable you to take to the market, be able to take it to your end user, take it to the bedside, hopefully, and allow you to deliver new solutions to healthcare and to the healthcare ecosystem. So I'd like to thank all of our external partners. We have internal collaborators within each of the business for each of our solvers that are also participating in driving our healthcare development. These are the folks that are actually writing the code. And I'll close my talk with one provocative quotation, and I'll take any questions you have.
Any questions? Yeah, Blanca.
Mark, what's the business model then? Where do you get the commercial value from the software?
Excellent question. So
Thank you very much.
we have a startup program and a partnership program, depending on the maturity of the technology or whether you're in the market already. And our engagement would be based on one of those two things. And then in healthcare, we recognize that you're not going to be running 10 models. You're going to need to run 1,000 models. So that licensing use is how the revenue would be generated. So you or whoever licenses the software from us, and we scale down that cost because we recognize that the runs are going to be high. So that's how we do this. And then our goal is to do what Dave was talking about, which is to help these types of technologies get reimbursed. And then that's how we want to help the person who did all the work of getting that technology regulatory approved or getting the clinical buy-in, that they reap the benefit from it.
I have a question for you, Mark.
Yep.
So my question is the following. In the predictive engineering symposium, I asked Omar, Omar was there, why weren't we using those predictive engineering methods and exploit them on the patient data that we have to make predictive engineering in patients, right? So that's this whole idea. And his answer was that there is no company or startup that today has a successful business plan to actually commercialize this. So in that moment, I realized that even if you have a business plan, it doesn't necessarily mean that it works. So my question to you is, what are the options we have to actually make this viable for patients? And I know it's a hard question. It's a hard question to answer. So any idea from your side is very valuable.
Sure. So since you were on my team when I was Medtronic, and you lobbed a hand grenade at me, I'm gonna lob one back at you. So here's a hand grenade I'm lobbing back at you. So what is the incremental benefit to a company who knows their product has adverse side effects or has negative outcomes? What is the benefit of them reducing the incidence of those outcomes? And what is the benefit to them, to the reputation, to the patient, and to the payer? And those are things that we need to go after.
Yeah, baby steps, like trying to put some salt and pepper in the devices until the market adopts the product. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and I think that again, I'm looking at Dave, who's in the back of the room. His presentation yesterday and the discussion afterwards was really excellent about the progress that he's been working on, or that the field needs to make in terms of being able to quantify the value of bringing these technologies to the patient and getting a viable financial model for sustaining it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
And really nice to see you.
Steve, you have a question? My question was, I didn't know what the regulatory situation was, Ansys, from if you were using it to make a clinical decision. Is Ansys CE marked, or is that a research grade thing and you'd have to CE mark it as a separate process?
Excellent question. So I am not familiar with the US regulations, but with the UK or the EU regulations. But in the US, the person who takes the product through the regulatory process and brings it to the market is the manufacturer. So in that sense, we can support you, but we won't be the one generating clinical evidence. We will be building all the tools and things that you need in the background, but we would support you in you going through that process. I have an example of a company, a startup that we're working with in Germany. Germany actually has something that allows reimbursement for simulation and case planning. So they have a maxillofacial application. The surgeon pulls it up on the screen. They upload the person's case, the image file. put the boundary conditions on it, put the device in place, and press enter, and it runs the simulation in the background. And it's reimbursed on a per patient basis.
Well, if we could all thank Mark again for a great talk. Thank you. Steve, did you want to say?
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming for a great meeting. People from all over the world, people giving a range of talks, which I think really reflects the diversity of the community, but also the spectrum of skills needed to build these models and to take them from concept through to application. And that I hope that we'll see people at the kind of ongoing meetings, which we'll be running hopefully every year for the next 5 years. Is the budget. So hopefully see you at future meetings. But thank you everyone for coming.